You're listening to ReachMD, and this is Lipid Illumination, sponsored by the National Lipid Association. I'm your host, Dr. Alan Brown, and with me today is one of my favorite people, Dr. Jerome Cohen, Emeritus Professor of Internal Medicine at St. Louis University School of Medicine and Director of Preventative Cardiology Program at the St. Louis University Health Sciences Center. Dr. Cohen has been active in cardiovascular research for more than 2 decades, and on top of that, he's a very practical physician. So I'm looking forward to talking with you, Jerry, today about our work on the Health Information Technology manuscript and its effect on adherence to lipid therapy.
Well, thank you very much, Alan. It's a pleasure to be with you again. I enjoy our discussions on this program, and I know it's helpful to the listening audience. So thank you for inviting me.
So why don't you give our listeners a little bit of background on how this project went, where we were trying to come up with some recommendations for health information technology.
We invited some experts from around the country, including practitioners, people who were HIT experts, people from industry, and people who are providers, and people who have backgrounds in various types of practices, small group practices, larger group practices, and individual practices, to get their feel on the use of HIT technology in trying to improve adherence to drugs. And in particular, we were interested in improvement of adherence to statin therapy, and it's their ability then to get to an LDL cholesterol goal. And this came about because of the increasing use of health information technology and the mandates that have been promulgated through the various legislation that has come to bear, beginning with the 2009-2010 Act, the HITECH Act. And there are now incentives for practitioners, meaningful use kinds of incentives, so that they then can partake of the benefits that can be derived from HIT. And we thought, because of the growing use of health information technology in clinical practices around the country, it could be used importantly as a tool to help achieve something that we've been neglecting, and that is improvement with compliance for chronic diseases such as hypercholesterolemia and hypertension and diabetes. We focused on hypercholesterolemia. It was sponsored by the National Lipid Association, and that is primarily what the interest of the group was. And I think all in the audience who are practitioners know that compliance over time declines. And we have data that shows that when a physician writes a prescription, 12% of the time it is not even filled at all. It stays with the patient who doesn't go to the pharmacy. And of those who fill them, another 12% or so don't even start it after they've filled it. And then by 6 months or so, we know that the compliance, long-term compliance, is less than a half. And this is true of most chronic diseases, and I think that it's not unique to the story with statins and LDL. And so we thought, with the emergence of the HIT technology and its use, that we could then have a tool that we could use to improve compliance, at least at some levels, the system level as well as the provider level, and ultimately even at the patient level, where we could have the use of modern communications to get to the patient as reminders. So this was the background of this conference, and we focused on health information technology in a variety of practices, and looked at what it could achieve. And this was really a very eye-opening thing, because there are a lot of clinics around who have used HIT successfully so, and have very, very impressive numbers, and have shown improvement in these numbers over time.
Yes, well, it's very interesting, the metamorphosis of electronic medical record from just, documenting things to actually changing the behavior of the physician at the time the patient is in front of him. And that, seemed like a revelation, and that things are moving in that direction, obviously. And then we're going to be graded on all that. So it's helpful to have some decision support when the patient is in front of you. The whole process of what was put together to look into this topic and determine how we might tackle the management of dyslipidemia was really fascinating. And, I look at it as sort of a model for the future, which was to get all the appropriate players together, those who need to use the system, those that can develop the system, and those that pay for care, and then sit down and figure out, what we need to focus on to accomplish our goals, and eventually, after a careful review of the literature, come up with a manuscript. But it was a wonderful process to participate in. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more about the process, who participated, and what we hope people will get out of the final manuscript.
Well, we had participants from the National Quality Forum, and the National Quality Forum has been out in front of this effort in spreading the use of HIT in meaningful ways. And they developed measures for the process whereby using their coded system, we could put in the disease states such as atherosclerotic diseases, whether a lipid profile has been drawn, and that there's a code for that, whether or not the patient's on a statin, and whether the patient has achieved their LDL goal. And we focused on the higher risk patient so that the goal, by our definition, using the ATP criteria, was less than 100. We thought that would be an easier task to pursue, and any number could be actually put into the system. And with the new guidelines that have come out, there's even more potential use of our efforts with regard to whether the patient's on a statin or not, given the fact that statins may be more indicated among a wider group of patients than in the past. The other participants, we had representative of the Kaiser Permanente of Southern California, and it was he who actually showed some very good data with regard to improvements in the Kaiser practice, implementing HIT, Health Information Technology. And the number that he showed us, that lipid control defined by achieving goal, was increased by 35% after the institution of the process there. And blood pressure control, just as another indicator, was improved by 44%. These results were achieved not just by the HIT tool itself, but importantly by incorporating the tool as part of a team process, because just having the tool isn't going to do it, and we learned that from other practitioners as well. It needs to be part of a systematic use of a healthcare team with the physician, perhaps others, including nurses, depending on the practice. Pharmacists can be involved in this. And a team approach, recognizing that the goal is to get the patient to continue to use their drug, in this case a statin, and thereby have a better achievement of their LDL goal. Other participants included three cardiology practices, a solo practice in Florida, a moderate-sized Midwestern lipid clinic that I'm happy to say Alan Brown runs, and had great success, Alan, I think, in contributing to the conference. And then we had the larger clinic from an academic medical center that was New York University, headed by Jamie Underberg. And so we heard from these clinics, all of whom have experience in HIT use, and all of them agreed that it's a tool that really has a lot of potential, but it needs to be used in a way that doesn't decrease the workload of the clinic. And I think this is one of the more important points that came across, and that can be incorporated into a practice reasonably easily. And so we set about with the HID providers to consider this kind of effort. And the HIT providers were representatives of Practice Fusion, MD Data Core, Allscripts, and Medivo. And we had, as you know, Alan, a meeting with the groups of providers, with the groups of HIT providers as well as others from industry, and it was really eye-opening because one of the problems that's been expressed is a failure to communicate between clinics or between plans, and the reasons for this became apparent. Everyone has different programs, and I think what we did was make an effort to achieve a first step, and I emphasize only that it was a first step, to achieve some coming together so that we could work out differences whereby we could communicate between clinics and amongst our peers. So it was a pleasure to participate, and we learned a lot, and we, I think, want to share this with the listening audience as well as those who want to go to the literature and see the printed version of it.
If you're just tuning in, you're listening to ReachMD. I'm Dr. Alan Brown, and today I'm talking with Dr. Jerome Cohen about a project leading to a very recent publication in the Journal of Clinical Lipidology on the use of health information technology to achieve lipid goals. So, Jerry, you laid out beautifully the participants and what our goals were. With that said, tell us what you think that our listeners should walk away with after listening to this show about what we learned from the whole process.
Well, it was determined that electronic health records really are important tools to provide both the healthcare providers and patients to get the guideline-specified goals. But it can't be expected to drive the success alone. Just having it isn't going to do it. It's got to be a commitment by the healthcare provider team, usually led by a physician, and we call that person a champion. And I think it's important that we have a tool here, and it's only a tool that can be applied in a way, I think, that can improve patient care. It needs to help improve practice efficiency. This is important because physicians complain that they're understaffed and overworked, and they don't want to see an added burden in terms of electronic health records. And we hear this a lot, and we're aware of that and cognizant of it, and are working toward the fact that eventually there may be a learning curve, but eventually we see this tool as a way that will actually improve efficiency and reduce the inefficiency that occurs in practices to try and get information to patients. So the ultimate success is driven by healthcare provider team and the relationship with the patients to motivate and to execute with as few obstacles as possible. So a team approach is essential, and this, I think, is one of the things that we have learned. The growing use of this tool has been promulgated by the government, and they do have stages of meaningful use for these electronic health records. Stage 2 of meaningful use will be kicking in, which will mean more rigorous health information exchange, increased requirements for e-prescribing, which we did discuss but won't review today, and more patient-controlled data. So it's here to stay. I think we physicians, that is, need to learn how to harness this tool and use it effectively to improve patient care.
Great. I remember vividly a statement by Greg Fonaros that systems turn good doctors into great doctors. And the idea that you're just going to remember to do the right thing with every patient when you're seeing 30 patients in your office it's just not reality. So it was exciting to hear all the opportunity for decision support that could be built into an electronic record, making it more than just record keeping, but an opportunity to improve the quality of care. I'm Dr. Alan Brown, and you've been listening to Lipid Luminations, sponsored by the National Lipid Association on ReachMD. Be sure to visit our website at reachmd.com/lipids, featuring podcasts of this and other series. Thank you very much for listening. And Dr. Cohen, thank you so much for taking time to talk with us today on lipid lumination.
My pleasure. Thank you.